Good morning, everyone. Today I want to delve into a profound truth, a message rooted in divine wisdom and eternal understanding. If you are God's chosen ones, you carry within you a calling, a purpose that is sacred and set apart. With this privilege comes responsibility, a need for discernment in what we share and what we hold close. There are aspects of your faith, personal journey, and spiritual connection that are meant to remain private, guarded not out of fear, but out of reverence. This topic, if you are God's chosen ones, never reveal these 5 things to anyone, is not about secrecy, but about honoring the sacred trust God has placed in us. Let us explore the keynotes that guide this principle. Take a moment to pause this video. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel to help us reach 200,000 subscribers, and drop a comment with the number 99. This number symbolizes divine intervention, and by sharing it you amplify the energy of God's protection in your life. If you truly are one of the chosen, you'll stay with us until the end of this video. Now let's dive into this transformative message about the chosen ones. The depth of your personal relationship with God is a sacred and intimate bond that forms the cornerstone of your spiritual journey. It is an encounter that transcends words, a connection that cannot be fully understood by another person because it is uniquely yours. This relationship is nurtured in the quiet moments of prayer, worship, and reflection, where God meets you exactly where these moments are filled with love, correction, and revelation, creating a personal experience that transforms and shapes your heart. When God speaks to you or reveals himself in a way that is deeply personal, it often comes as a whisper in your spirit or as an overwhelming sense of his presence. These experiences are not meant to be broadcasted for validation or approval. Sharing the intimate details of your walk with God can sometimes dilute their impact, making them vulnerable to misunderstanding or even ridicule. This is not to suggest that you cannot testify of God's goodness or share the joy of his work in your life, but there are facets of your relationship that are reserved solely for you and God. They are treasures meant to be guarded, not paraded. Consider the example of Jesus, who often withdrew to solitary places to pray and commune with the Father. Even as the Son of God, he sought private moments to strengthen his relationship with the Father away from the crowds and distractions. This teaches us the value of protecting our spiritual intimacy. When we keep the depth of our relationship with God private, it allows us to remain grounded, focused, and unshaken by the opinions of others. In a world driven by social validation and public displays of faith, it can be tempting to overshare, to seek affirmation for our spiritual journey. Yet the profound aspects of your connection with God are not meant to be a spectacle for the world. They are the foundation upon which your faith is built, a source of strength that fuels your every action. By guarding this relationship, you ensure its purity and allow it to flourish without external interference. Additionally, sharing too much about your relationship with God can sometimes lead to spiritual pride, which is counterproductive to the humility required of God's chosen ones. When we elevate ourselves in the eyes of others, we risk losing the focus of our faith, which should always point back to God, not ourselves. It is a delicate balance between sharing testimonies that glorify God and withholding details that might shift the focus to us. Instead, create standards of truth to show the world such testimonies as the one we want to focus on. Moreover, protecting the depth of your relationship with God serves as a shield against spiritual attacks. The enemy seeks to exploit our vulnerabilities, including our most cherished spiritual moments. By keeping these sacred experiences between you and God, you deny the enemy a foothold in your life. This act of discretion is not born out of fear, but out of wisdom, and a desire to honor the sanctity of your connection with God. In your journey as God's chosen, remember that your relationship with him is a covenant, a holy agreement that requires both commitment and discretion. It is not a performance to be displayed, but a life to be lived in alignment with his will. When you nurture this relationship in private, you allow God to work in ways that may not always be visible to others, but are transformative for you. Guarding the depth of your personal relationship with God is an act of stewardship. It acknowledges that the divine encounters and revelations you experience are not solely for your benefit, but are also a part of God's greater plan. By keeping these sacred moments private, you demonstrate trust in God's timing and wisdom, knowing that he will reveal what needs to be shared when the time is right. Through this, you grow in discernment, learning to listen to God's voice and follow his leading without the noise of external influences. It strengthens your faith, builds your character, and deepens your reliance on God. It also serves as a testimony to others, not through words but through the evident transformation and peace in your life that can only come from a genuine relationship with God. As we move forward, let this keynote remind us that some things are meant to be cherished in the secret place, where God meets us in His fullness. This is the space where we are shaped, refined, and prepared for the work He has called us to do. It is a space that requires trust, humility, and the wisdom to protect what is most precious. The specific instructions or revelations God gives to you are sacred and personal. These divine messages are often entrusted to you for a particular purpose. When God speaks to His chosen ones, it is often through prayer, scripture, dreams, or even moments of profound stillness. These revelations can be life-altering, providing clarity and direction in ways that human wisdom cannot. However, their purpose is not always for public disclosure. Some instructions are given for a specific season or situation, and sharing them prematurely, or without discretion, can hinder the unfolding of God's plan. Billy died in January of 2014 and glorified his last moments, especially with his family. In the Bible, we see numerous examples of individuals receiving divine instructions that required privacy and obedience. One notable example is Mary, the mother of Jesus. When the angel Gabriel announced to her that she would give birth to the Savior, Mary pondered these words in her heart. She did not run to announce this revelation to everyone around her. Instead, she trusted God and waited for His plan to unfold. Her silence was not out of doubt, but out of reverence for the magnitude of what God had revealed to her. Revealing divine instructions too soon can sometimes invite unnecessary challenges, misunderstandings, or even opposition. When Joseph shared his dreams of greatness with his brothers, their jealousy led them to betray him. While God ultimately used those circumstances for good, it is a reminder that not everyone will understand or support what God has revealed to you. Some instructions are meant to remain hidden until the appointed time, ensuring that they are protected from the influence of doubt or sabotage. Keeping God's instructions private also requires humility. It is a recognition that these revelations are not about personal glory, but about God's purposes. By withholding them, you demonstrate your trust in God's wisdom and timing. You acknowledge that His plans are higher than your understanding and that His timing is perfect. Furthermore, divine instructions are often accompanied by a process of preparation. Before you can step into the fullness of what God has revealed, He may need to refine your character, build your faith, or equip you with the necessary skills. During this time, it is essential to remain focused on God's voice rather than seeking validation or advice from others who may not fully comprehend what God is doing in your life. Sharing divine instructions prematurely can also create a sense of pressure or expectation, both for you and for those around you. Others may impose their interpretations or timelines, distracting you from God's specific guidance. By keeping these revelations private, you create a space for God to work without interference, allowing His plan to unfold in its intended. In some cases, God's instructions may seem unconventional or counterintuitive, making them difficult for others to understand. Noah was instructed to build an ark long before there was any sign of rain. Had he sought the approval or understanding of others, he might have been discouraged from obeying God's command. Instead, Noah's faith and obedience became a testament to God's faithfulness and power. By guarding the specific instructions or revelations God gives you, you honor the sacred trust He has placed in you. It is an act of faith, demonstrating your belief in His plan and your commitment to His will. It also protects the integrity of God's message, ensuring that it is not diluted or misinterpreted by those who may not share your understanding or calling. In this act of discretion, you align yourself with the example of Jesus, who often instructed His followers to keep certain miracles or teachings private. He understood the importance of timing and the need for God's plan to unfold according to His divine purpose. As God's chosen ones, we too are called to steward His revelations with wisdom and care, trusting that He will guide us in how and when to share them. Your vulnerabilities or weaknesses are deeply personal aspects of your journey that should be shared with discernment, if at all. These areas of struggle, pain, or imperfection are part of the human experience, but as God's chosen ones, you must be cautious about revealing them indiscriminately. Vulnerabilities, while they can foster connection and empathy in the right context, also leave you open to potential misuse, judgment, or manipulation when shared with the wrong individuals. God allows us to experience weaknesses not to shame us but to shape us. In Corinthians 12:9, the Apostle Paul writes, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." This powerful truth reminds us that our vulnerabilities are opportunities for God to demonstrate His strength. However, the process of surrendering these areas to God is deeply personal and should not be subjected to unnecessary scrutiny or exposure. Revealing your weaknesses to others can sometimes lead to unintended consequences. Not everyone has the capacity to handle your vulnerabilities with care. Some may exploit them, use them as weapons, or view them through a lens of judgment rather than compassion. This is not to suggest that you should hide your struggles in shame, but rather that you should exercise wisdom in deciding when and to whom to share them. Inappropriate sharing of vulnerabilities can also create an unnecessary burden for those around you. Others may feel obligated to provide solutions or support that they are not equipped to give. This can strain relationships and detract from the ultimate goal of finding healing and strength in God. By keeping these areas between you and God, or sharing them selectively with trusted, spiritually mature individuals, you ensure that the focus remains on God's work in your life, not on the opinions or reactions of others. There is also the risk of defining yourself by your weaknesses when you share them too openly. Constantly speaking about your struggles can reinforce a mindset of defeat rather than victory. While it is important to acknowledge and address areas where you need growth, dwelling on them or seeking validation through sharing can hinder your progress. Instead, allowing God to work in these areas privately can lead to a transformation that speaks for itself, without the need for verbal explanation. In some cases, sharing your vulnerabilities prematurely can disrupt the process of healing or growth that God is orchestrating. God often uses our weaknesses to teach us lessons, build our character, or prepare us for greater responsibilities. Sharing these struggles before you have fully processed or understood them can expose you to unnecessary criticism or discourage you from continuing the journey of growth. It is often in the quiet, private moments of wrestling with God that the most profound breakthroughs occur. Another reason to guard your vulnerabilities is the spiritual protection it provides. The enemy seeks to exploit our weaknesses, using them as entry points to sow doubt, fear, or division. When you share these areas openly, you may inadvertently give the enemy ammunition to attack your faith, your confidence, or your relationships. By keeping these struggles within the safe boundaries of your relationship with God, or with trusted confidants, you deny the enemy this opportunity. This principle does not mean you should never share your vulnerabilities. There are times when God calls us to testify about how He has worked through our weaknesses, turning them into sources of strength and inspiration for others. However, such sharing should be spirit-led, purposeful, and directed toward glorifying God rather than seeking validation or sympathy. When done in the right context, sharing your struggles can demonstrate God's power and encourage others in their own journeys. Ultimately, the decision to reveal your vulnerabilities should be guided by prayer and discernment. Seek God's wisdom in determining whether sharing will build others up, align with His purpose, and protect the sanctity of your spiritual journey. When you choose to keep certain aspects of your struggles private, it is not an act of hiding, but an act of stewardship, ensuring that these sacred areas are handled with care and reverence. In your journey as God's chosen ones, remember that your vulnerabilities are not a source of shame but a testament to God's transformative power. They are reminders of your dependence on Him and of His ability to bring beauty from brokenness. Guarding these areas allows you to walk confidently in His grace, trusting that He will use even your weaknesses for His glory. Unfulfilled dreams or visions not yet realized are seeds planted by God in your heart, carrying the potential for great purpose and fulfillment. These dreams often represent a glimpse of the future, a calling or a mission that God intends to bring to fruition in His perfect timing. However, sharing them prematurely or with the wrong audience can hinder their development, inviting doubt, discouragement, or unnecessary interference. When God gives you a vision, it is often accompanied by a period of waiting and preparation. This waiting season is critical, as it allows God to refine your character, build your faith, and equip you with the tools needed to carry out the vision. During this time, the dream may be fragile, requiring protection from external influences that could derail its sharing it with others before it has taken root can expose it to skepticism or criticism, which may weaken your resolve or cause you to question God's plan. The story of Joseph in the Bible is a clear example of the dangers of prematurely sharing a vision. Joseph's dreams of greatness were God-given, yet when he shared them with his brothers, it led to envy, betrayal, and hardship. While God ultimately used these circumstances to fulfill his purpose, Joseph's experience serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of discernment. Not everyone is equipped to understand or support the vision God has placed in your heart, and sharing it indiscriminately can invite unnecessary challenges. Unfulfilled dreams are also a testament to your ongoing journey with God. They require patience and trust, as the timing and method of their fulfillment rest entirely in His hands. When you share these dreams too early, you may inadvertently place undue pressure on yourself to bring them to pass, or open yourself up to the expectations of others who may not fully grasp God's timing. This can lead to frustration, disappointment, or even a sense of failure if the dream does not materialize as quickly as anticipated. Furthermore, dreams and visions often involve elements that are not immediately clear or fully understood. God may reveal them in part, leaving room for growth, learning, and reliance on Him for further direction. Sharing them prematurely can lead to misunderstandings or misinterpretations, as others may attempt to impose their own ideas or opinions on what the vision should look like. This can create confusion and distract you from following God's specific guidance. Another reason to guard unfulfilled dreams is the spiritual protection it provides. The enemy seeks to thwart God's plans and will often attack the areas where you hold the most hope and potential. By keeping your dreams private, you create a barrier that prevents the enemy from using your own words or the words of others to sow doubt or fear. This act of discretion is not about secrecy, but about wisdom, allowing you to nurture the vision in a safe and sacred space. This does not mean you should never share your dreams. There may come a time when God prompts you to share your vision with trusted individuals who can offer support, encouragement, or partnership in bringing it to life. However, such sharing should be done with prayerful discernment, ensuring that the people you confide in align with God's purpose and have the spiritual maturity to support you, without imposing their own agendas. Holding on to unfulfilled dreams with faith and discretion also strengthens your relationship with God. It reminds you that the dream is ultimately His, not yours, and that He is the one who will bring it to completion. This perspective frees you from the burden of striving in your own strength and allows you to rest in His sovereignty. It also cultivates a deeper sense of humility and dependence, as you recognize that the fulfillment of the vision is not about your ability, but about His power and grace. Unfulfilled dreams are a source of hope and inspiration, a reminder that God's plans for you are greater than you can imagine. By keeping them close to your heart, you honor the sacredness of His calling and create a space for the dream to grow and flourish according to His design. This act of faith and stewardship ensures that when the time comes for the vision to be realized, it will do so in a way that brings glory to God and fulfills His purpose for your life. Your acts of kindness or good deeds are significant expressions of God's love working through you, but they are not always meant to be shared publicly. While performing acts of kindness is encouraged and brings glory to God, revealing them unnecessarily can shift the focus from God's grace to personal recognition. As God's chosen ones, you are called to act in humility, letting your deeds reflect God's character rather than seeking validation or praise from others. Jesus emphasized this principle in Matthew 6, verses 3 through 4. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. These verses highlight the importance of discretion in your good works. It is not the approval of others that should motivate your actions, but the desire to align with God's will and demonstrate His love. Sharing your acts of kindness with others can sometimes dilute their purpose. When your focus shifts toward receiving acknowledgement or admiration, the purity of your intentions may be compromised. The act becomes less about serving others and more about gaining approval or building your own reputation. This not only undermines the sincerity of your kindness, but also detracts from the glory that rightfully belongs to God. Furthermore, publicizing your good deeds can unintentionally create a sense of competition or comparison. Others may feel pressure to match or exceed your actions, leading to a focus on outward displays rather than genuine service. This can distort the true purpose of kindness, turning it into a performance rather than a heartfelt expression of God's love. By keeping your good works private, you ensure that your motives remain pure and that your actions are rooted in humility. There is also a spiritual dimension to keeping your good deeds private. When you perform acts of kindness quietly, you allow God to work through you in ways that are often unseen but profoundly impactful. The person receiving your kindness may feel a deeper connection to God, recognizing His care and provision through your actions. This creates an opportunity for God's presence to be felt more powerfully, free from the distractions of human recognition. Keeping your good deeds private also protects you from the spiritual dangers of pride and self-righteousness. It is easy to fall into the trap of measuring your worth or spirituality by the number of good works you perform or the praise you receive. However, true kindness is not about building your reputation. It is about reflecting God's character and extending His grace to others. By choosing not to share your acts of kindness, you guard your heart against these temptations and maintain a posture of humility. In addition, the privacy of your good deeds often allows them to have a greater impact. When acts of kindness are performed without expectation of recognition, they can speak volumes about the authenticity of your faith. The recipient of your kindness may be more deeply moved, sensing the sincerity and selflessness behind your actions. This quiet, heartfelt expression of love can have a lasting effect, planting seeds of hope and faith that continue to grow long after the moment has passed. There may be times when sharing your good deeds is appropriate, especially if doing so inspires others to act or brings awareness to a cause. However, even in these cases, your sharing should be done with discernment and humility, ensuring that the focus remains on glorifying God and serving others, rather than elevating yourself. Pray for wisdom and guidance, seeking God's direction on whether to share and how to do so in a way that honors Him. Ultimately, acts of kindness are a reflection of your relationship with God. They are an opportunity to demonstrate His love, compassion, and generosity to a world in need. By keeping these actions private, you allow them to remain pure expressions of His character, free from the distractions of human recognition or approval. This not only deepens your connection to God, but also ensures that your kindness fulfills its intended purpose, to glorify Him and bless others. As God's chosen ones, you are called to embody His love through your actions, not for personal gain but to bring light to others. By practicing discretion in your good deeds, you honor this calling, allowing your kindness to be a true reflection of God's grace at work in your life. Expansion of Keynote 6. Your personal relationship with God is one of the most sacred and intimate aspects of your spiritual journey. It is a bond that is uniquely yours, shaped by your experiences, prayers, struggles, and revelations. As God's chosen ones, you are called to cultivate this relationship in a way that brings you closer to Him, deepens your faith, and transforms your life. However, sharing too many personal details about this relationship with others can undermine its sanctity and potentially invite misunderstanding or even judgment. In Matthew 6:6, Jesus says, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." This verse emphasizes the importance of privacy in your communication with God. While communal prayer and worship are essential parts of the Christian faith, your personal moments with God are meant to be a deeply private dialogue. These moments are where you pour out your heart, seek His guidance, and experience His presence in a way that only you can. Revealing too much about your personal relationship with God can sometimes diminish its authenticity. It may unintentionally shift the focus from God's work in your life to how others perceive your spirituality. The desire to share spiritual experiences or insights is natural, especially when they are meaningful or transformative. But there is a fine line between sharing for encouragement and sharing for validation. When the latter becomes a motivation, the purity of your relationship with God may be compromised. Moreover, your relationship with God is deeply personal and may not always be understood by others. Each person's spiritual journey is unique, shaped by their individual struggles, questions, and revelations. Sharing intimate details of your relationship with God can sometimes lead to criticism, misinterpretation, or even discouragement if others do not see or experience God in the same way. This can create unnecessary confusion or doubt, detracting from the peace and assurance that comes from your connection with Him. There is also a protective element in keeping your relationship with God private. The enemy seeks to disrupt and undermine your faith, often targeting areas where you feel most vulnerable or uncertain. By keeping certain aspects of your relationship with God between you and Him, you guard these sacred moments against spiritual attacks or distractions. This act of discretion allows you to nurture your faith in a safe and undisturbed space, free from external influences that might cloud your understanding or confidence. Your personal relationship with God is also a work in progress, continually evolving as you grow in faith and understanding. Sharing too much too soon can expose you to the opinions and expectations of others, which may not align with God's timing or purpose for your life. This can create unnecessary pressure to conform to a certain image of spirituality, or to achieve milestones that God has not yet called you to reach. By keeping your relationship with God private, you allow Him to shape and guide you at His pace, without interference from outside voices. This principle does not mean you should never share aspects of your relationship with God. There will be moments when God calls you to testify about His work in your life, to encourage others, or to glorify Him through your experiences. However, even these moments should be approached with prayerful discernment, ensuring that your share is spirit-led and purposeful. When done in the right context, sharing your journey can be a powerful way to inspire faith and point others to God, but they also have a significant impact on your living water testimony. Ultimately, your personal relationship with God is a sacred gift, a source of strength, guidance, and love that sustains you through life's challenges. By choosing to keep certain aspects of this relationship private, you honor its sanctity and allow it to flourish in the way God intends. This act of faith and discretion ensures that your connection with God remains authentic, untainted by the opinions or expectations of others. As God's chosen ones, your relationship with Him is a cornerstone of your identity and purpose. Guarding its privacy is not about hiding your faith, but about protecting the intimacy and integrity of your walk with Him. This allows you to grow in His presence, guided by His wisdom, and anchored in His love.